I'm Josh Swartz,
And I'm William Illingworth.
host of the High Tech Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now.
Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others.
Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, welcome back. Steve here, and today I'm talking with Shaan Akbar, who is the co-founder and CEO of Tutored by Teachers, or TBT. They're working to close the opportunity gap by serving our nation's highest needs students with teacher-led small group virtual instruction. So much to learn today. Thanks for listening. Oh, by the way, it'd be so cool if you reached out to somebody you know who may not listen to the podcast, and you say, hey, you should listen to Teaching Learning Leading K12, and you could share the links with them. What do you think? Just find one person to do that. That'd be so cool. You are awesome. Enjoy the show.
Yeah. So our engagement managers. So what we will often do. So we have our engagement managers. They regularly visit the schools. So they are not only just connecting with principals the way you and I are, but they will also show up on site. Those launch weeks when we're first setting up, to get an intervention live. Our engagement managers, and they will have launch teams with them. We get in there, we do tech checks, we do, and we will have PDs for the classroom teachers. So there's a lot of on the ground support that happens.
It's the Education Podcast, your favorite show, with lots of groovy guests and they share what they know. So crank it up to 10 and let your neighbors know that here's another show with Dr. Steve Miletto. Teaching, learning, leading K12. Teaching, learning, leading K12. Teaching, learning, leading K12. With Dr. Steve Miletto.
Shaan Akbar is co-founder and CEO of Tutored by Teachers, a fast-growing, mission-driven startup working to close the opportunity gap by serving our nation's high-needs students with teacher-led small group virtual instruction. TBT features a highly qualified and diverse teacher community that is doing tremendous work to support their peers in the classroom and advance equity in education. Shaan, welcome, and thanks so much for joining me, and say hello to everyone.
Dr. Miletto, thanks so much for having me, and excited to talk to your community.
Well, it's great to have you here, and so let's start off by, can you share a little bit about Tutored by Teachers for those of my listeners who are not familiar?
Yeah, well, honestly, you took the words right out of my mouth. You did a phenomenal job giving us an introduction. But like you said, we're a mission-driven company working to close the opportunity gap in education. We're doing that by serving high-need students with personalized instruction powered by teachers. And we have this tremendous community of highly qualified and diverse teachers across the country, nearly 6,000 of them. And they're serving over 10,000 kids right now across the country with instruction that is classroom aligned, that features high quality instructional material and drives tremendous outcomes. And in the whole process, we are not only giving teachers the income and respect they deserve, but we're also driving student outcomes, and we're helping buttress the K-12 education system.
Very cool. Very cool. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about how this works, because you partner with schools and districts. So we're going to talk about how you provide the tutoring in just a minute, but how do you partner with a district and so forth? How does that work? Do they like say, send you an email and say, hey, I'd like to know more, or,
Yeah. So, there is, high dosage tutoring is all the rage right now. And a lot of, we are on a lot of state lists, a state vendor approved list around high dosage tutoring because we're a high quality provider of those services. That's often a way school districts will be out, school administrators or principals will be looking for services like ours, and they'll reach out to us based off the contact information on those websites. We're also out and about at conferences. We're connecting with school leaders all the time. And whenever they hear about what we're doing, they say, we need this in our classroom.
Very cool. So, all right. So let's talk about, what they're reaching out to you for is this thing that you just referred to called high dosage tutoring. So what is that? What's that look like, and what you doing?
Yeah. Well, high dosage tutoring is the single most effective way to bridge learning gaps. It is empirically shown across research, whether it's Annenberg or JPAL, that this is the highest leverage thing we can do to drive outcomes for kiddos outside of just core instruction. And fundamentally what it involves is you are expanding instruction time, and it's personalized. Students are meeting with a high quality instructor in a small group consistently with that same instructor, and they're leveraging content, classroom aligned content over the course of an academic year. And basically by adding extra personalized instruction time, you're allowing students, you're allowing scaffolded approaches to instruction. Kids, a lot of kids aren't at grade level, and classroom teachers often teaching content that's grade level appropriate. And, that results in kids, and through no fault of the classroom teacher, they have to keep the kids moving along at grade level. But they're, COVID let a lot of kids fall behind, and, they disengage when they're not engaged with classroom content. And this allows them to get that extra time to scaffold up into their classroom content.
Very cool. That's it's just like you were talking about before. I mean, it is a huge need especially when you're working with kids who are already behind, and maybe have struggled with some of the concepts of some of the subjects, and so need tutoring as it is, and may not have been able to reach out, get tutoring and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
So very cool. All right. So tell me how students work together with a tutored by teachers tutor. I mean, can you share more about that relationship?
Yeah. So students, basically what happens is, we will partner with the school district and down to the principal and down with the site leader. And we'll work with that site leader. We have engagement managers who we effectively, they are effectively the assistant principal for that principal. And, we provide a high level of service for them. And we will work with that principal to identify student groups that they want to serve with high dosage tutoring. We'll get their student academic data, and we'll get those students smart grouped according to their academic performance. And they'll get grouped in groups of 3 or 5, no greater than 5, typically around 3. And they will be assigned to a teacher. And basically, and this is the beauty of the model. It's highly consultative, and it depends on the school. Every school, we differentiate for students, we'd also differentiate for schools. Sometimes a principal will want us baked into small group time in an elementary classroom. So while a teacher is at a kidney table serving, her tier three students, the rest of the kids are logged in on their headphones and on their laptops, engaging with our teachers. And that'll be happening for 45 minutes to an hour, 2 to 3 times a week in a classroom. Or you'll have, sometimes you have dedicated win time, what I need time, or personalized learning time in older and higher grades, middle school. And those students will get pulled out and sent to a computer lab. And they will basically, they will get on their laptop, they'll type in their login code, and they will get routed to their classroom, to their TBT teacher. And that is the same teacher they meet consistently, throughout the academic year. And they are getting, we have a whole instructional framework for that student that, they are getting. There's an SEL opener. We're getting those students to open up and engage, and then we're delivering content, and we're doing what I learned checks for students. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So this is neat to know about, because so it's personalized to the person, to the student. And so where are you regional as an organization, or are you just within certain states, or is it nationwide?
Yeah, it is nationwide. We're in over 15 states now. We're serving some of the largest districts in the country: Los Angeles Unified, Charlotte Meck, Gwinnett County. We're about to go live in Broward. And, we're also in place mid-sized districts like Nashville, Indianapolis, Denver. So we are national.
Very cool. Very cool. So, all right. So, one of the things I just heard you mention was that, it happens during the day. So we're not talking necessarily that it has to take place at night either. Can you just kind of talk about that a little bit more? So is it something that the tutor and the the student work out, or is it something that the school and the tutors work out?
Yeah. Well, what's great is that this is entirely school organized. And so, typically what's happening is that this is, there's a tiered approach to how you drive outcomes. And the most high impact thing you can do is build tutoring into the school day and have it on site. And so we're working with the school to make that happen and organize those groups of students. And then kind of the next best thing to do it is kind of before after school on site. And so we'll organize that too with schools or with service organizations that are providing wraparound services to the schools. And then kind of the third option is, providing instruction to kids at home again, but it's still organized by the school and it's still scheduled. And, the challenge with that is that, students may not have the adult supervision or the press to attend those sorts of programs, and so that can often be a challenge with at home.
Gotcha. That's, and by the way, that makes perfect sense. So
I
having been principal at different socioeconomic background families and communities, and a lot of times there is no such thing as the table or the whatever to work at.
Right. And I mean, we've seen instances, a lot of communities, I mean, we're predominantly serving high need students in these underserved communities. And, they are, we had some at-home after school tutoring, and, we realized we had to make it later in the day because some kids were having to go to work, or some kids were needing to take care of baby brother or sister after school. And so those sorts of, those are sorts of needs that, that you kind of need to work around.
Gotcha. One of the things that, there's a whole bunch of questions flying in my face right now. So I gotta, so one of the things I want to ask you about here is, can you talk a little bit about who the tutors are? I mean, where they come from and what inspires them to be part of your group?
Yeah. Our teachers are exclusively from the United States, and they have U.S. classroom experience. And we have a whole process for going out and finding mission-driven, mission-aligned teachers who are motivated by our desire to help serve students and close the opportunity gap. And I mean, that's a lot of teachers. And basically we run a whole process around screening our teachers and ensuring that they are highly qualified, diverse, and only about 10% of teachers who apply to our community get to join our community. And that's resulted in this really high quality community. Over 60% have grad degrees in education, over half are special ed or ELL certified. They have an average classroom tenure of about 12 years. And most importantly, over 40% identify as teachers of color. So they often mirror the students that they're serving. And that's a personal point of pride for me, because when our teacher community was, 1,000, it was over 40%. And even now, as it's scaled up today to over almost 6,000 teachers, it's still over 40% people of color. And that's, we are arguably running one of the largest teacher and most diverse teacher communities in the country right now.
Wow, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that, because I know that's, if I was, you're getting ready to have somebody work with your child, and or as a school, you're getting ready to have somebody work with your students. You really want to know who those people are and where they come from, what thoughts they have. So I like that. One of the things that is interesting about this world now is that we have there's all kinds of interesting changing landscapes. So the first thing I want to talk about is that when we look at just the things that have happened over time since COVID. Well, starting with COVID, I mean, we ended up with a lot of programs that were from home and trying to do it from home, and then the kids come back to school and there's a lot of gaps. So is there something that you do to kind of figure out where they are and what they're doing, because I mean, especially, depending on what was going on in the home, that could be a big chunk of information that's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've, students are bringing a lot of, there's a lot of trauma around COVID. And, we've got some stories out of that, but, what we are doing is we are, when we partner with a school, we're getting student academic data. We're getting notes from a principal around the student, around their behavior, around their backgrounds. And we are leveraging that information in terms of how we smart group those kids and how we provide those notes to instructors who are then baselining their instruction based off where the students are. And the key to this whole thing and driving outcomes is helping a student feel seen and helping and then meeting them where they are. And those are critical. That's a key part of how we first baseline the students, and then we also provide our own lightweight assessments where we are kind of gut checking where the kids are at, and we will often toggle up or down on standards based off what we're seeing in our own assessments.
Very, very cool. One of the things that, speaking of standards, one of the things that get me thinking about here is that how do you make sure that the tutoring is matched up to what needs to be going on that's going on in the classroom or in that school?
Yeah. So, we have now served, hundreds of thousands of instruction hours for kids. And we've worked across so many districts, and we're serving so many kids. So, and there's a lot of research around what the load bearing standards are on any given grade. So we have a lot of our own data, and we have a lot of research that tells us what kind of the priority standards are to hit kind of for any given grade or any given student based off where they are in their learning journey. And so often those map, and a school leader will see our priority standards, and they'll say, yeah, we want to use those. But we can also, we also have more in-depth approaches. So sometimes school districts will want more than just, it's not just high dosage tutoring, but they'll want more than skills intervention. They'll want curricular reinforcement. And so in those instances, we'll go so far as to, go to deep dive on the high quality instructional material they're using. We've had districts like Indianapolis, they're using Eureka Math. So we'll deep dive on that. We'll start identifying standards and content that need to be used to supplement that content and curriculum. And then we'll implement that. And districts will also provide us pacing, schools will provide us pacing guides. We're taking in a lot of information, and we're customizing a lot, and this, I got to say this relates to our approach on white glove service. This is not a fire and forget solution. This is a true partnership. We are really deeply partnering with academic departments and classroom and principals and classroom teachers to continue taking in information and adjusting to what's happening in the classroom. And that drives really great outcomes.
Nice. This is awesome. One of the things that it makes me think about is, does anybody ever visit the school, or is it all online?
Yeah. So our engagement managers. So what we will often do. So we have our engagement managers. They regularly visit the schools. So they are not only just connecting with principals the way you and I are, but they will also show up on site. Those launch weeks when we're first setting up, to get an intervention live, our engagement managers, and they will have launch teams with them. We get in there, we do tech checks, we do, and we will have PDs for the classroom teachers. So there's a lot of on the ground support that happens, because getting adoption those first 2 weeks of our on-site programs, it's critical, and that ensures great attendance, which ensures great outcomes. And so that's that. And principals need the help. There are 700,000 fewer K12 staff in building across the country this year than there were last year. Folks need help, man. And we're there to help.
That's awesome. Yeah, crazy, because that's I was trying to figure out how to ask a question like that, because that's it's so you did a good job bringing that one in, because that's one of the things that we struggle with in schools. This is this is my 37th year in public education in the state of Georgia. Wow. All right, and I've never seen such over the last couple of years that all happened as right after the pandemic and all this. We have the big quit, or whatever you want to call it, people moving on to try and do everything from home and become YouTube influencers or something, and
podcasters maybe.
Yeah, podcasters maybe, yes. But thanks. And it's really kind of fascinating, because it's you're starting to see this kind of like trickle effect of people kind of going back into college to become teachers. We have a program that in Georgia called Georgia Tap, which is an alternative way to education. So we have a lot of candidates in those programs who are changing their whatever their program was before that they were doing, whatever they were doing for work and such like that. And so we have a lot of people changing their position coming into education. It's just an interesting time frame, because it does create the need to have more, people working with the child to help them overcome whatever those gaps are.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a major trend, right? This new teacher that's coming into the classroom, and often they're emergency credentialed, or they're just they're brand new to the profession, because we've had so much churn, and that's one of the things we've seen. And we started as high dosage tutoring, and really what is high dosage tutoring? But it's if you're familiar with MTSS, it's tier 2 and tier 3 instruction, and because we only have credentialed teachers, we're getting pulled into tier 1 instruction and more in depth, like we talk about curricular reinforcement, more technical work. And what I'm seeing is that as time has gone on, we're getting called in. If a school doesn't have a teacher, we provide one in a thoughtful way. It's not just Zoom in a room. If a teacher is brand new or emergency credential, we can supplement them. We can help them get at bats while we reteach content. And then, and if the teacher is great, we can help expand their capacity through high dosage tutoring and tier 2, 3 instruction. And what we're, especially with those new teachers, a lot of what we're seeing is there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of regulation coming in place across the country around, in a good way, in some instances, like science of reading adoption, third grade retention laws around reading. There's HQIM implementation requirements across states now. And teachers are overwhelmed as they have to learn science of reading. And now they've got to learn the new science of math. And they've got, year over year. And we can help. I'm not trying to oversell us, but this is part of our mission of buttressing the K-12 system and make it more sustainable. We can come and help those brand new teachers implement HQIM and science of reading, and help them learn how to do it all along the way while they can watch us. And I think that is a critical piece of any ed tech provider. It's not to be an arms dealer and say, like, only use our service, but it's to actually help try to make the system more sustainable and help provide training wheels effectively to these brand new teachers.
Oh, that's awesome, because that's that's a big part of it. Is sometimes the number of teachers you're getting, their lack of experience, or where they whatever planet they're coming from, maybe even lack of understanding what they're expected to do as a teacher. And so one of the things that happens is that there's so much going on in a school that a lot of times it's like, good luck, look forward to checking in on you, and you never get, the next thing you know is they're duct taped to the ceiling or something. And I'm just kidding, by the way, to anybody who's listening. They might be. I don't know. So that's cool to know that you provide that type of support also. It's, before we started talking, we realized that we had something in common, which I'm a RISA director, and Shaan's working with a couple of RISAs, a RISA in the state of Georgia, and In other states, just as a note, you have organizations like us, whether we're same in Georgia, we're called regional educational service agencies, and all the public school systems belong to us, and they and then we help them find support for what they're doing, and so this is cool that we have this connection also, Shaan, and by the way, as I say that, just want to make sure. Tutored by Teachers is not sponsoring this show, so I started making it sound like that. So, but it's cool to have this connection because it's a great way of connecting with the school systems and such. So, one of the things that I got to ask you is, so can you share a few success stories? I'm sure you got a few.
Yeah. We are, we've got a lot. What I will overall at a high level, I'll say we consistently generate double-digit academic gains against target standards in a matter of weeks, and nowhere is that more apparent in Indianapolis. We are running in partnership with Indianapolis Public Schools, running one of the country's largest high-dosage tutoring programs. We're serving about a third of their students right now, and that's scaled up, through a crawl, walk, run approach over the course of the past couple of years. And last year, in just a semester, we started by just serving students in their turnaround schools. These were called emerging schools. We started with 1,600 of them. And in a semester, in the fall of 22, in a semester with just 12 hours of instruction over that semester, they saw NWA MAP growth. And these are, mind you, kids in turnaround schools. So these are highest need students. They saw a double-digit NWA MAP gains. And if you're familiar with the NWA MAP, it's like the gold standards of summative assessments. And from their fall to winter scores, students went from, in reading, they went from the 28th percentile of growth to the 40th. And, so they saw 12 points of growth there. And then on math, they went from the 42nd percentile to the 52nd percentile. So meaning they were outperforming all their peers in growth across the country in just a semester. And what's even more exciting is that group of kids, those students in those turnaround schools, outperformed the entire state of Indiana on Indiana's iLearn test, which is a state assessment on reading. So we are able to demonstrate outcomes at scale that are statistically significant and that are practically significant and that are externally validated. It's NWA MAP data. We have third-party psychometricians validate our results. We're currently doing an RCT in Denver. So we're taking our results to the bank, and that's in partnership with Stanford University and the Annenberg folks there. We feel really strongly about transparency in outcomes and statistical significance around outcomes, because you will often see a lot of folks take really nominal gains and parade those around, and it's critical that we as an industry keep folks honest around that. Yeah, so we're really proud of the large scale academic outcomes we're driving, and we think that is showing that high dosage tutoring can move a whole district's outcomes is the way to drive greater high dosage tutoring adoption across the country.
That's awesome. I'm a big believer in the role that tutoring can play, and it's funny. In one school, we organized teachers and community members and even the administrators, including myself. And I learned rather quickly that day, even though I was doing some entry-level type mathematics for kids who were in the 9th grade, that should have been further than that. Then even though I'd gone pretty far in my mathematics, that I'm still a history teacher at heart, and I needed to stick to the humanities. And I reached out to my engineer friend, who was a parent, and I said, "I need your help, man."
Yeah.
And part of it was answering questions. That was what was difficult, as you started realizing they're in another. I'm not in how they're asking here, and so I need someone who can help figure out and get them to where they understand. And so it's a cool talent. It's an awesome service to have.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate that. And I mean, that is and that's why, expertise in pedagogy matters, and expertise in content, subject matter expertise matters. And so you gotta bring both to the table, and that's why credentialed teachers are just they're the best tutor.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
That's I like that. Shaan, we're getting close to finishing up. If someone wanted to reach out, to follow up, connect, learn more, where would you send them?
Yeah. Well, of course, we've always got our website, tutored.live, tutored.live. That's super easy. But I'm all over LinkedIn, and I know a lot of current and former educators are all over LinkedIn now. It wasn't always the case. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Give me a follow. Follow Tutored by Teachers on LinkedIn. We're sharing all sorts of great outcomes and results, and a lot of the great stories of our classroom teachers, of our teacher tutors, of our students all the time. We'd love for you to engage with us on LinkedIn.
Very cool. And make sure we have that LinkedIn part in the show notes, because I'll have that information in the show notes, so it's easy for listeners to find and connect out there with you, which is good stuff. All right, I got two last questions that are just some questions I like to ask my guests. And the first one goes like this. How do you keep going when so much is going on that you may want to quit?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm I've been having like my last couple of weeks. Oh my gosh, the sprint between Thanksgiving and Christmas. My gosh, I've had some days. And what I'll tell you is that, we are doing this entirely virtually. A lot, like our whole company is remote. And what keeps me going is getting into the classrooms that we're serving. And you see the impact we're making. Kids who are disengaged are engaged now. And that is like, and we're making a difference. We're making a difference for these kids, and we're helping them feel seen. And that keeps me going. It is the stories that my team is bringing back to me. It is staying grounded to what is happening in the classroom. And I think we can't, I think that's key for everyone. What's happening in the classroom.
That's awesome. I love that. That's good stuff. Last question. Do you have a teacher in your past who made a difference in your life? If so, who was it? And what would you say if given the chance to say thank you?
Oh gosh. I'll tell you who it is. It's Mr. Cornell. He was my calculus teacher. So I will tell you guys, I'm South Asian by background. I had Tiger parents. I was okay at math my entire academic career, but boy, they ensured I was opted into every honors program, and every year I'd come back with B's and C's, and and my confidence around math was awful. And then like my last, my senior year of high school, I'm in AP Calculus, AP Calc, and Mr. Cornell loved teaching. And he was a good math teacher. And I will tell you, I got the highest grade in his final, and I got a 5 on my AP
Nice.
Calc test. And this was a total turnaround. And it goes to show, and we were high schoolers, and he would have Saturday morning boot camps for the AP testing. He would have 100% attendance. I don't know what teacher can command 100% attendance.
That's awesome.
from high schoolers for a freaking AP test. Yeah. And we did this, and we crushed. And I worked, before I did this, I worked in video games, and I had to, video games, mobile games, if you'll indulge me, there's some really complicated math that happens. And one thing I had to do was basically calculate the area under a curve. I had to take the integral, and I remembered, and it was like 15 years later. And I emailed Mr. I did have a chance to thank him. He was still a teacher. I emailed Mr. Cornell and I said, "Thank you so much. You gave me confidence in math. I'm like an executive now in a highly math-driven industry, and I'm still doing integrals because you taught me that really well." And so that's my Mr. Cornell story. Mr. Cornell, if you're listening, thank you so much.
That's so cool. I'm glad you shared that. That's a really feel good story there. Nice. Yeah. And especially because you reached back out to him and were able to talk to him. So good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Shaan, thanks so much for talking to us a bit about Tutored by Teachers and for all the work that you do to help close that opportunity gap. We appreciate it, and wishing the best in all you do.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you so much to your listeners.
Hey, you have been listening to Teaching Learning Leading K12, a podcast to help you help kids achieve their dreams. Teaching Learning Leading K12 is a member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. Teaching Learning Leading K12 is a member of the podcast network based in Canada called Voice Ed Radio. Voice Ed Radio, your voice is right here. The opinions expressed on Teaching Learning Leading K12 are those of the guests and host. Teaching Learning Leading K12 is intended to share ideas, advice, and suggestions. Teaching Learning Leading K12 is produced for educational purposes. Hey, thanks for listening. It would be awesome if you visited my website at stephenmiletto.com and connected with me, left a review, and listened to more episodes. And by the way, you could also share it with your friends, with your family, and your colleagues. Thanks so much. You're awesome.